year off social media, and I want to talk about the 7 or I guess 8 lessons, takeaways that I had from this whole experience. And so,
Yeah, I haven't done it. I didn't do it for a year with him, but I have done it for like a week at a time, and I agree.
yeah. And so so this was in 2017. I was taking a 1-year sabbatical from work, which we won't get into now. We've done it on some other videos, talked about that a little bit. But during that time, I decided this would be a perfect time to kind of take a sabbatical from social media. And so that's what we did. So let's get into some of these lessons, and then we can kind of dive into some of the more of the details a little bit later. So first lesson was that I was more present with pretty much everything in my life. Mm-hmm. So I felt more present with you. I felt more present with our kids. I felt more present with even hobbies and things that I just enjoyed doing. I felt like I could actually soak in and just really enjoy them a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I felt more present with God in my prayer life.
Good benefit.
Just everything, I was just more present. And it was a very refreshing feeling. Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about these other ones. But
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, and we met a couple of months ago. We met a guy who, I can't remember. Do you remember what his job is or what his? Mm-mm. Darn, no. I wish I could. He has credentials, but anyway, one of the things he was telling us was one of the things that builds the most anxiety in us is not being present. And so he was instructing us kind of like when we're getting that feeling of like, he said, just stop and like start breathing and like notice your surroundings. Like what is happening around you? Like, are your kids running around? How does your body feel? Are you sitting? Are you standing? Are the birds chirping? Is it raining? You know, whatever that is. And that was really kind of insightful for me to like stop the anxiety from just like crowding in. Because a lot of times that's just when our brains are in a million places at once. Don't you think?
Exactly. Yeah. So next lesson I learned was that it wasn't nearly as awkward as I thought it would be. Because like going into this, like you might think too, like if I took a year off social media, like I'd lose all my friends, like no one who know who I am anymore, and it would just be really socially awkward because social media is a part of social interaction now. It's like, when it was a novelty 15 years ago, it was a little bit different, but now it's part of the social fabric of our society. Mm-hmm. And I was really nervous about that, but it wasn't nearly as weird as I thought. I kind of thought this is like the equivalent of going out in the woods and just becoming a hermit or a recluse and just living all by yourself. But it just didn't really feel like that. And I think the reason it didn't feel like that is because I still was spending time socially with friends, but it felt more real. It felt more like authentic. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I don't know why. Like some of these things, I don't know why it felt like the way that it did, but I'm just recalling how I felt from this period. But it just made those friendships feel deeper, and maybe it's a matter of.
Well, I keep up with people on social media, which is helpful sometimes, but also it's like, what's going on? You get a totally different story from people when you hear it from their mouths, rather than when you read it on social media. And I bet that has something to do with it.
Yeah, that very well could be part of it. And it might have also just been that I wasn't keeping up with people then, and so when I did get a chance to talk to them, it just felt richer. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure, but anyway,
it's interesting.
Third lesson was that life goes on just fine without me. Like things changed, but they didn't change nearly as much as I thought they would. So a big part, the main reason I did this for a year while I was taking that sabbatical was that a lot of our social media is part of our business and part of. There's a necessity to it to some extent for what we're doing as whatever YouTubers and blogger and podcaster or whatever. Like this is just part of what we need to be doing. And from the business component, I just thought a year is like forever in the internet. And so like I was just kind of nervous that everything was going to pass me by and everything was going to be different when I got back. And it wasn't that much different. I thought that I would kind of be like woefully out of touch with everything, but not that much changed. It was just really kind of interesting. Like from the end of this year to the beginning of this year, with the entire year in between, so much was the same. And so many things were really, really similar. And it reminded me of this quote that I've heard, that people often, or always, overestimate what they can get done in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 5 years. And I think it's kind of the same idea, where it's like, in 1 year, yeah, a lot can change, no doubt. We've had years where a whole lot has changed, but most times not that much changes. Over the course of 5 years, like, our lives have looked radically different.
5 years ago, we were living in St. Louis.
Yeah, like, our life is so much different than it was 5 years ago,
It's pretty crazy.
And so, anyway, that was just really eye-opening to me. All right, next lesson was that it helped me feel better about myself. I'm a 3 on the Enneagram, and for any of you who are familiar with the Enneagram know how this works, like, part of my struggle as a 3, when I'm not healthy, when I'm not, when I'm just not connected to God the way I should be, and just kind of defaulting to the wrong stuff, is needing social approval and caring too much about what other people think and all this stuff.
I think everyone deals with that to a degree. I think it's just stronger.
Yeah, I think it's just amplified for 3s. But, so ultimately I felt a whole lot better about myself for this entire year, because I wasn't on this treadmill like a lot of us are, where we're on social media and we're just seeing this highlight reel of everybody's stuff, and it just makes us feel bad about our stuff. It makes it feel like, man, we got a great house, until I look at Instagram and I start seeing everybody else's, and just all of that kind of comes with it. And so I was just feeling better with my own kind of self-esteem, feeling more comfortable in my own skin, more content, more thankful for what I had. And it just felt good. It just felt good,
just by not looking.
And that's one of the things that I've always, really probably the last 5-7 years, just really disliked about social media is, I don't go spend an hour on social media. Like, I can't think of a single time ever in my life, and I feel like way better when I'm done. It's kind of like eating a big bag of Doritos or M&Ms or something, where it's like, it tastes really good. I feel like I can't stop. But by the end of it, it's like, I don't really feel better than what I started,
Kind of how I felt watching Tiger King too.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Number 5 was that this is kind of tied into it, but it brought a whole lot more peace into my life. And so, even beyond the kind of highlight reel, everybody else's highlight reel, there's also a lot of stuff, as we all know, especially right now, a lot of stress-inducing news that is just kind of shared on social media. A lot of arguments, fights, and just a lot of stuff that creates stress and like tension and angst, And so just by eliminating that and just not having a daily dose of that or a regular dose of that, like, I just walked around more peaceful and just felt a lot, just so much more peace. And so that was something I was really, really loving. Next on the list was that I had a lot more time and I just had no idea how much time I was wasting on social media. And, and not every time each one of us gets on social media, we're not wasting our time. I mean, I don't think you're wasting your time right now, kind of biased, but, or if you're creating something to help people. But the reality is that most of us spend most of our time on social media just consuming, just passively consuming.
Not me.
Not you?
Not me.
Okay. Except her. So that's what most of us do. We just passively consume. We just passively scroll, and double tap stuff. And, and when you eliminate that, like, there's just so much time. And, I've seen different stats showing how much time we all spend on our thing. And we check Instagram 17 times a day and all these things. That adds up to a lot of time, in which that does a couple other things. And, what can you do with all that time when you don't have that? And I can think of a whole lot of things.
Well, and there's a lot of people, most people are like, I don't have enough time. It's interesting that if we deleted social media, how much more time we would have. I mean, I wonder.
Yeah, no, and that was one of the things that was just so fascinating to me, that all I had to do was delete these 2 apps off my phone, and suddenly, boom, I have a lot more time.
Boom. Which ones did you delete, by the way?
So for me, during this whole social media thing, and everybody's different, but for me it was Instagram, Facebook. Just deleted them both off. I never really do anything with Twitter anyway, so that wasn't really a temptation. But but those two.
I
and
find
then,
that if when I deleted Instagram off my phone, I was like, well, I'll just go find a different platform. I'm like, I'll just fill my time with something else. I'll escape in a different way.
Well, yeah. So for me,
So beware of that trap.
what that would have been was like news. So I like staying up on the news and seeing what's going on. And so I also deleted off of the news apps just so I wouldn't be tempted to do that as well.
Go.
But, and that leads me to the next point, was that it was way easier to get into the Word because all of those default kind of things that I went to when I pick up my phone are now gone. And I intentionally put the Bible app right there, front and center, and kind of threw everything else in folders so that I'm staring right at that. That is the easiest point of contact. The least amount of friction is going directly to the Bible.
Yeah.
And as a result, I just got into the Bible more, and which is great, you know. So I have more time, and I'm getting more in the Word. I'm eliminating stress and having more peace and feeling better about myself. Like all the stuff, like it was just so good and so just good for me as a person.
Mm-hmm. Which this morning I went to grab my phone first thing in the morning. Okay, we all do it. Don't judge me. But I went to grab my phone, and last night before I went to bed, I read some Word because I really needed to. And I woke up this morning and the Bible app was already open on my phone. And this is just another idea, practical tip. It was already open on my phone, and I was like, that's a way better idea. I'm just going to do that. So when you
unlocked it, it was just sitting there?
It was just sitting there.
That is a great idea. I didn't think about that.
I know. So that's a good, I mean, I did it on accident, but I think that is a great little hack.
Yeah, just have it sitting there. Force you to see it first. I love that.
Yeah, because there's so many times when you open up your phone to do something, and then something else is already open, and you get lost in that. That happens to me all the time for Instagram.
Yeah. And then the last one on the list is just that there's so much less brain clutter. And I felt like I could think clearly. And I don't know how to perfectly kind of describe what this felt like for me, but it's kind of like when you have a really messy kitchen or maybe a really messy desk. And it's just hard to get stuff done. It's hard to think clearly because stuff is just piled up everywhere, and it's just hard to function like that. At least for me, and I know the kitchen is for you.
For me, yeah.
And
a lot of things are like that for me. I like uncluttered.
Yeah, no, we both do, and there's just something about that allowed me to operate just better. Like I could just think clear. I could, just generate ideas again. It was just eliminating that mental, that digital clutter, all that noise. And it just really helped. So anyway, those are my 8 big takeaways. I'm sure there were a bunch more, but those are the ones that I came up with that really were beneficial for me. And anyway, so for you, here's what I would love for you to do. I'd love for you to try this, and don't go a year. I mean, unless you want to go a year. But I think you can get some of all of these benefits just for a couple of days, and so I think that'd be an interesting.
Or one day.
Yeah.
I feel like one day is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, just trying something with this, do a little experiment and see how it goes for you.
Yeah, can we even just break it down? To some people that feels really overwhelming. What if it's an hour? What if it's just during dinner time?